We're talking about fair housing violations that are currently going on and that nobody, especially the government, has even been squawking about it. Like the veterans who have been pushed out of the market for buying a home for the last 2, 3, 4 years because they want to be able to utilize that military benefit of a VA loan. But because it's been such a hot seller's market, sellers have been able to say, oh, no, thank you. We're not going to consider a VA loan. We just want to work with a conventional offer. That's great, fine. It's your prerogative as the seller. But isn't it strange that the government isn't actively addressing this housing issue for their military? Because now you have a whole class of individuals who are being pushed out of the market to give up their right for a military loan in order to buy a house. Is it really the fault of the market, or the government just turns their back and doesn't care that their loan program is not able to be used? I know my son has the right to buy a home as a VA. However, he was pushed into the seller only wanted to accept a conventional offer. His option, move on to another property, take a different one. But when you find the house and it is listed that it would qualify for a VA FHA type loan as well as a conventional, then why is the seller able to say, I'm not willing to work with that? Okay, I get it. We can't force the seller, but it's unfair to the buyer. Different example, I have a client who basically we've spent the last 4 years going in, looking at properties, making aggressive offers, and time again, she was not an accepted offer because of the VA loan. 4 years later, markets, of course, not changed in this. If anything, it's gotten worse. But we finally get into a contract with a seller who is agreeable, who is willing to work with the VA loan. And much to their surprise, it was a smooth process. There wasn't any obstacles that came out as a result of the seller having to do more things than what they would have had to done if it was just a conventional offer. The process was basically the same, but it gave the benefit to the buyer to be able to utilize their VA loan, which was their right for their military service that they have done. Brings me back to this real estate settlement that's currently being discussed. As mentioned, if you're an FHA VA buyer, USDA, these government programs do not allow, specifically the VA program does not allow the buyer to pay for any part of that process of the loan. So if they're forced to pay this out of pocket, if they even can, you haven't helped the process, you've actually just hindered a whole class of people who are supposed to be able to buy a house with their benefit of their military service. Isn't that the very definition of a fair housing violation? If you don't see the writing on the wall, they're coming after our home ownership. They're coming after the middle and lower class and the right of being able to have a part of the American dream, that generational wealth. The greatest single factor for most people in obtaining wealth is through home ownership, which, oddly enough, seems to be on the radar for the government to start picking it apart, finding ways to take it over.